Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. Now today we're going to talk about how you can get this image from this image. So the idea behind this is basically don't disregard any images which you think are not recoverable. There's always something you can probably do to recover images that you think you can't. Now even if you think you can't or you can't recover them, it's a good learning phase with the editing part of things, so you can see how you can recompose. It doesn't all have to be done in the camera for the learning purpose. Obviously do everything you can in the camera. You're composing, take your time, shoot a little bit wider so you have time, so you have a little bit of compensation for yourself. And then if there's nothing else you can do, this is the second chance you kind of get just to recompose a little bit, but you have to be careful. Obviously you don't crop too deep into your images and it doesn't become pixelated, etc. But with nowadays technology and modern cameras, even if you crop in a fair bit, you're not going to lose much anyway, especially if it's only going on Instagram or Facebook or the internet or anything as such. So I didn't notice this image and I wasn't really too keen about it, and now looking at the image I think I can actually recover this. So it looks quite good. Let's go through it step by step using easy simple software, which if you've got Photoshop you'll definitely have this software. It's called Camera Raw. It's an add-in. I don't really use Lightroom, but similar principles apply, simply because Lightroom is the child or the love child of Photoshop and Camera Raw. I'm old-fashioned. I love using Adobe Bridge. From there I use Camera Raw, and then I'll take it to Photoshop for my final tweaks and placing my logo, and I'll talk you through the whole process, why I do it and how I do it. Let's get straight in. Right guys, so we're going to jump right into Adobe Camera Raw, and I'm going to show you how I actually edit this image. So before we do that, I'm going to show you Adobe Bridge, which is the one I actually use. It's similar to like I said, Lightroom, because Lightroom is actually built on this on Camera Raw. So we have the same cataloging stuff that it has in Lightroom, and the ability to select and categorize your images and view them however you want. So I basically will go through my selections and choose the 5-star ones and which ones I like. Actually I won't choose the 5-star ones, I will rate them as 5-star and go along as I want, as you can see over here. Now some of them do have these tags. These ones are green. They don't really mean anything as such. It's just for me to know that I need to do something about these images. So these two images are related to each other in terms of the subject we're going to talk about very shortly, but not in this video. Today we're actually going to talk about this image. So this is the one. If I just press spacebar, this shows me a quick preview. It's not going to be clear, but just so you get an idea, this is the image we're talking about. Okay, now I'm going to come up over here and click on this like an aperture icon, and it tells you open in Camera Raw. So we open that up in Camera Raw and we can see what the image actually looks like. So let's get straight in. So before we do anything, we can see a few things about this image. The horizon looks a tiny bit wonky, but I'm not sure if it is. We'll have a look at that. That's one thing we'll do. What I'm basically doing right now is I'm actually making mental notes. These are the things that I'm going to go over. Rather than do them as I go along, I'll know which one to go for, which ones are screaming out at me that need fixing, and then other finer detail I may pick up as I'm going along, but the main things are these, obviously. So like I just said, the horizon, the sensor dust, which is still on my camera, this tripod column right over here, the feeling that this bit here is very heavy. No pun intended. I know they are stones and rocks, but that's not what I meant. This bit just seems a little dirty and a little bit odd. I do like the fact how this does lead you in the image, but unfortunately it takes you all the way because it's very heavy over here and your eyes don't go to the main part of the image, which is over here. So the haze was coming in on this side. As you can see, it's very hazy over here, and it isn't as hazy over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try fix all this in the best possible way. So I'm not going to focus too much about the sensor removal, but I am going to use this tool over here to quickly show you how it's done. The shortcut is B for the keyboard, and the tool is spot removal. Nothing happens as you can see. I like to choose this over here, which is the visualize spots, and now you can see the sensor dust there. If you just click on it, you can start cleaning the sensor dust. Now this slide over here will determine how much you wish to see and how much you don't. I have it on quite high usually because I like my images to be clean. Why does my sensor have all this dust? Well, I'm always out shooting in the desert, shooting in places, and even though I'm getting my sensor cleaned every month or so, these little particles on the wind do gather up and do sort of like take over the actual sensor itself. Now I'm just going to do a quick rough clean, not the best clean. Yeah, just a few more spots. So this is quite a heavy tool, so as you are cleaning, I will make you aware. Take note that it might seem like your system's hanging, and if that is the case, take it slowly. I'm doing this in real time. My system was built by myself to quite high-end spec, so you can handle this okay. But if you're working on a laptop or not so powerful machine, just keep that in mind. So take it nice and easy, and choose one spot, wait till it comes back, and then come back again. Not much over here. I'm not too bothered about the rocks because I know what I'm going to do here. That looks about right, so I'm going to take the visualize spots checklist off. You can see these are my selections. I can take that off and nothing's obvious now. Go back to my normal view. Okay, let's check the horizon quickly just by doing it the quick way. There's two ways to do this. If you double click on that, it will automatically try to find it, and it's found a tiny bit. Double click, nothing there. Just to make sure, the other way to do it is then click on it once, drag it where you think it needs to be straight, let go, and yeah, same thing, absolutely minor. So we see the before, whoops, we see the before there, where are we, and the after, minor, absolutely minor. Right, the other thing I will do, I know I already want to get rid of this, I know I want to get rid of this, I know I want to clean it up, but let's just start with the editing process from the exposure. I always check the auto tool if I'm in Lightroom or in Photoshop or in Adobe Camera Raw, just to see what the computer thinks it should be. Not bad, but probably not what I want. I need to balance the sky on this side and on this side, so we're going to be using the gradual filter just to fix that. I can't remember if I had one on this. I don't know why I took this shot and had that tripod. This is not something I would actually do. So that doesn't look too bad. The second thing we need to look for is the haze. So to get rid of the haze tool, we do use the dehaze tool, but you have to use this very, very carefully, because if you just go mental with it, you can see what it does to the image, and we don't want that. And it still seems very fuzzy over here, as you can see. That's not really what we want. So reset the saturation because it's taken that up quite a bit. I'm just going to use that very, very minutely and see where it makes a difference. Now, don't just look over here, look on the overall of your image as well, just in case you're looking in one spot and it starts doing that. Okay, so where I think it's balanced over here, I don't want to push that any further, so this is going to need more treatment, which we will look at in just a moment. Now, that's not bad. I know I can fix this image. So why did I do this first rather than my actual things? Other adjustments? Well, basically I didn't want to waste time. If I don't think I can expose this properly, get the colors right, get the horizon right, I'll be wasting time doing all the other things, and then there's no point in having a good composed image if it isn't exposed properly at the same time. Again, that's my opinion. So I don't want to waste time anymore and just get on with it really. So I'm happy with all that. So what we're going to do is we're going to scale the image a little bit. Now the reason I'm actually using this program is it actually gives it actually treats your image really, really well, because it then becomes, the word I'm looking for is non-destructive is what you're doing here, because you're actually doing it to the raw file, not the actual JPEG. This is the reason I do all my adjustments as much as possible in here and then make minor enhancements in Photoshop itself. So we're going to click on the transformation tool. If you have an older version of Camera Raw, these tools will be over here somewhere. I can't remember exactly how it was, but I believe it was up here somewhere. Right, so we're going to click on that one. That looks like a bendy square or a weird looking rectangle or whatever you want to call it. And I want to scale it up a bit. So the idea is to scale it up where I can get rid of the tripod and this building over here on this side, because it doesn't really add much to the image. I want this part over here to be my main focus. So as I scale the image, you can see the rocks are just getting bigger and bigger and closer and closer. So we want to minimize this. How? Well, I'm going to shift the image down a little bit up to about where I can. I think that's about right. It looks okay. Do I have any capacity to go left or right? I do. That's not bad either, actually. I still don't like this building over here, but we'll have a look. We'll see how it looks. Does that look about central? Let's centralize it. About there, about here. Yeah, keeping the cluster in the center, about there. I'm happy with that. If you're not sure, you can always use your grids to keep them nice and straight. Right, that's all I'm actually going to do over here. We've got rid of the main of things. It looks a lot more balanced over here now, so I'll do a quick before and after, and you can see the difference. See how it just looks healthier already. Not worrying about all the detail. That's good. Back to my adjustment panel, if that's what it's called. Well, it's a zoom one, but it gives you all the adjustments over here. So I'm going to give it a tiny bit of contrast, and there's about it. Probably take my exposure down a little bit, and then I'm going to use the texture and the clarity tools over here. Now the texture one is a new one. What this basically does is it adds texture, as it says, to all the image while retaining the fine detail. Now what it's doing is actually affecting the medium-sized details in the image, not like the sharpening tool. The sharpening tool actually affects the overall image and the high frequency sides of the images. Basically that's what that does. So the sharpening tool basically controls the finest detail in the image, which is also referred to as a high frequency area. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to drop a link to a page which is going to give you all the details of what the texture and the clarity and the sharpening tools actually do, so you can play with them yourself and choose which one works best for you. So for this I'm going to zoom in a little bit and just give you a quick example. So if you have a look at the texture going up, you can see how the image just texturizes over there without losing any detail, and it's really good, but we need to only use it a tiny bit. I'm going to set that back to 0, and we're going to click the clarity tool and watch how that contrasts the edges and behaves in a different way. But again, we have to use that very carefully where about we want in the image. And I'm going to add a tiny bit of sharpening in those finer details which the other tools may have missed out, and leave it to that. Okay, that looks quite good. I'm happy with that. So the other thing I said, we're going to fix the sky on this side and on this side. For that we're going to use the graduation tool, and we're going to slide it down about here. You can see how it goes over. Now don't worry, it looks dark. I know it does because these sliders are not set how we want them, but I'm just going to readjust them from last time and fix the color so we have a bit of a color match. That looks about right, give or take. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Let's now try it on this side and see where about we are, and it's about here. That looks okay. I think that's not too bad. Okay, what I also want to do, oh hello, hi, you're going to come and say hello to everybody in the camera. Come here. We have a special guest, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Are we going to say hello over there? Are we going to come and say hello?
Yeah.
Look over here. Look over there. Look over there.
Yeah.
Look over there and say hello.
Yeah.
And wave. Wave. Look over here. The reason she's looking above is because I've got a monitor attached over here, and my daughter is looking on the monitor, not in the lens. Look straight there. Yay! You can let Daddy walk. You can sit in Daddy's lap. You want your toy? Go on then. Go get it. You're gonna sit down quietly for me? Okay, so so far so good. What I also want to do is I love using the radial tool and actually adding a lot of depth to my image. Now ignore what's happened over here. This is simply because of my previous settings on my other image. I am going to balance that about there, bring the highlights back up, exposure back up a tiny bit. Again, all I'm doing is drawing the attention to the center of the image, and this is probably one of the best tools to do that with, but not too much. About here, we're looking about there. That doesn't look too bad, and yet still we haven't opened Photoshop. See, the key thing here is there's many images of mine which actually just go through this process, go into Photoshop, put my logo on, and that is what I tend to do. I don't do nothing else. And resize my images for web as well. These are the few things I can do. If I don't have to go in Photoshop and start editing the image, then why bother? I'm not an editor, I'm a photographer. Now another thing we're going to do, again, we can see the haze over here compared to the top of the image over here, so we have to try fix that as much as we can. Again, we don't want it to look unnatural, so what I'm going to try to do is use the brush tool, which is a local adjustment tool, and I'm going to just paint it across. That's it. Now you can probably just see what I've just done, and it might look a little bit silly, but the idea is to fix that and make it work. So there we are. I'm going to get rid of that tool and just do it one more time. There we go. So we can bring the highlights back up again, just so it balances about there. And the thing we actually want to do is get rid of the dehaze. Let's have a look if that lets us do it. It might work, but it might not work. We might have to use the contrast tool instead. No, that's not really going to do a lot. Again, we have to look all over the image. We have to look here as well, not just here. So we're going to leave that where it is to 0, and I might add a little bit of contrast there. So what I will do, if it gets added on too much over here, is use the same tool but in the erase mode. Let me put a mask on so we can see where we've painted, and just take away the area that we don't actually want it to apply to. So we don't want it over there, we don't really need it on the top, we don't really need it on the bottom. So this is like a form of masking, but it isn't masking, if that makes sense. I'm selecting where I want my tools to take effect on my image. So I'm taking that off, and let's now go back to the actual tool again. Am I on it? Yes, there we are, and balance it out. It's about there, give or take. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's bring the blues back in, match that color. There we go, done. So that's fine, I'm happy with that. I think that's good. There might be some slight things I might do with Photoshop with this one, so let's open this up into Photoshop and see how we can take this any further. Now, if there's any part of this that you didn't understand, just stop it right here, rewind, go back, watch it again, and make notes as you're going along. It's probably one of the best ways you can actually learn. So if I now put Photoshop on back on that monitor on this side over here, full screen mode. Okay, so I'm going to create, I don't want a grid, I'm going to create a copy of the image, turn the original one off. And the reason I do this is because then when there's any changes I've made, I like to see how my progress is going along. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. First things, I'm going to use a selection tool, W on the keyboard, or you just click on the fourth one down, which is object selection tool, which has changed now. Select, fill, content aware. That should do a much better job. Boom, done. So personally, I don't like the new selection tool. I prefer the old brush style the way it was, which is this one over here. This one is much better because you can actually draw in what you want and what you don't want, but the other one, yeah, it's not too bad. Okay, so what have we done so far? We have got rid of the building, not bad. Okay, I'm liking it. And all I'm going to do here is basically add a wee bit more contrast and highlight to the image. As you can see, the histogram looks okay, but it's telling me there's no highlights, but I'm happy. That's the effect I actually want. But I'm going to add in anyway. There we are. Mid-tone doesn't really need it. About there. Yeah, so we're good. Yeah, we're good so far. A little bit of dodging and burning, so we're going to use the dodge tool. I'm bringing it down to about 10%. No, what is it on? 14%, only in the mid-tones, which is these areas over here. And I'm just going to brighten these up a tiny bit. Again, a few strokes here and there. And that's all that's needed, really. And we're done. Maybe a little bit to lead the eye in from here. Don't forget, we're just creating leading lines, and there, a little bit in the cloud, and that's about it. So before and after, and you can see how it highlights there. Now if you think there's too much here, which I think there might be, just over here, I'm going to actually burn it a wee bit. Use the burn tool in the midsection, again bringing the exposure tool down. What this basically does is allows you to add it a little bit, and you can see how we are adding it back in. We might be able to use that here as well. Yes, we can. And whoops, back there again, nice and easy. Oh, might be too much. Again, just use this sparingly, don't go crazy with these tools, okay? They are at your disposal, and just learn how to use them really nicely. That's good. Now your eyes do get drawn right to the center. We don't have much of a leading line, but these areas are brighter, so they lead you straight in, but you also tend to look on this side as well. This will be a little bit blurry or out of focus because there was no focus stacking. It was just literally right in the center. Control 0, bring it back to full screen. Happy with that. Right, and last thing that I tend to do is add my logo. So if I just go to one of my hard drives, get my whoops, not there, get my logo. It'll open up over here, so I have a black version and a white version. I think I will need the white one for here. Chuck it in. Okay, obviously it's too big. Let's put it in the center. It should snap. There it is. Oh, make it smaller first actually, and then snap in the center, and boom, that's what I need really. I'm done. I'm happy with that. Another thing that I have done is I've created an action to size my image, which I click on, and it has now come down to the size I want it to, which is, for web I use these settings. The resolution is 75 or 72, sometimes 150, but the height and the width 1920, 1280, done. I'm happy with that. I will then proceed to save that, so I'm exporting that into the folder, which is the recent project. Yeah, that's the one. It's for the internet. So I'll go in this folder over here. If it was a high resolution print, it'll go into here. PSD will go into here. Site basically means website, and web is basically for the web. Why have I named it like that? Because sometimes when I'm doing it in a rush, I might see web on web and confuse the two. This way I won't hopefully confuse the difference, and web goes into web. I'll save it as lesson or 1 or something, I don't know, whatever, and it's done. That is it, and that will then just get pushed out onto my social media, so you can see the differences. It'll be on my Instagram as well. If you enjoy that video, guys, please do give me a like and a subscribe and a thumbs up. What I will do is take any of your suggestions. Let's make that a little bit wider. I think I'll take back any of your suggestions. If there's anything else you want to see, if there's anything you want me to enhance in this video. I know I'm not the best at making these videos, and I don't speak the best English, but I do try, and I'm getting there slowly. Right, love you and leave you guys. All the best until the next time. Peace. That's not me, that's Marquez. See you later.